Joining us now, Congressman Lee Zeldin from House Financial Services. He is the New York GOP candidate for governor. So what was your reaction to that report?
We should be focusing on the economy and inflation. Unfortunately, you have too many members of Congress who want to distract and talk about other issues other than what Americans are saying is the most important issue to them. Now, for some of these same people who want to distract away, they also want to spend an unlimited amount of these same Americans' money, which will make the issues only worse. They don't want to ramp up domestic energy production. Some of the obvious solutions that are before us here in our country, unfortunately, some of the same people looking to distract are people who want to advance policies that would make this far worse.
So, you know, what's going on too, Congressman? Let's talk about the 17 House Democrats arrested outside the Supreme Court, blocking the street at an abortion rights protest. Critics are saying, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar were pretending they were handcuffed. Then you had Democrats Carolyn Maloney, Cori Bush saying they, quote, put their bodies on the line here. But this was like being arrested by the security at the local library.
Yeah, and even worse in this case is that you might get arrested at that local library by somebody who can put real handcuffs on you. This is an act in many respects. And unfortunately, this is avoiding what is, for many Americans, the most important issue and issues. Now, if you want to put up that big stand because you feel like back home in your own districts that crime is out of control, as we see in New York City right now, that's something that can bring all sides, Republican, Democrat, Independent, left, right, in between. But these are, in many respects, messaging efforts that seek to go off onto left and right tangents that unfortunately have more people upset and frustrated.
You know what's striking is this came on the same day. About, I think, 219 House Democrats blocked a resolution condemning violent attacks by pro-abortion activists on churches and pro-life pregnancy centers. We're going to watch Speaker Pelosi refuse to condemn those attacks. Watch.
As far as the abortion case is concerned, there have been a number of attacks on churches, on crisis pregnancy centers. Republicans are going after Democrats for not saying anything, and they're saying that your rhetoric is contributing to these attacks on these crisis pregnancy centers.
Well, let me just say this. A woman has a right to choose, to live up to her responsibility. It's up to her doctor, her family, her husband, her significant other, and her God. This talk of politicizing all of this, I think, is something uniquely American and not right.
That's a remarkably idiotic and incompetent response. What if there were more than 150 attacks of arson and vandalism on abortion centers or abortion clinics? Right? Why can't she condemn criminality like that? Why is it so difficult? And who's politicizing here?
Because it really is about Tuesday, November 8th. Their majority is not only at risk, I believe that the House is going to flip. This is a last stand for the House Democrats, who I believe will end up losing the majority. And every word, every action is all geared towards an election. And that puts her in this position where she has to choose between having a double standard or no standard, as opposed to just being consistent with a moral compass that many people who understand the point that you made, they seek in their leaders, that they would just shoot straight and be honest with them. There's a choice that she speaks about of whether or not to get an abortion. What about the people who choose not to get an abortion? And many of them are being threatened and intimidated as well as...
The rhetoric is pathetic. It has to stop. Why is it so hard to stand up against the mob? Why is it so hard to say we are for law and order? We are for protecting people, right? I mean, somebody threw a Molotov cocktail into the Wisconsin Family Actions Facility. And then you had, you know, this pro-abortion group, they're threatening to vandalize and go after even more churches. And then you still have protests at the homes of Supreme Court justices, where the neighbors and their children can't live a normal life. Your final word.
The furthest and most irrational elements of the far left have been the loudest, and they've, in many respects, ended up rolling much of the Democratic Party. Instead of people like Speaker Pelosi and others choosing to lead these elements to the far left, they've made the play call to be led by them.
Congressman Zeldin, good to see you. Come back soon.